don't trust nobody. In Hollywood, specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
With the series, with the film?
I mean, I think the intention is to give a more full-bodied experience to what happened, you know, from the people that agreed to sit down and to participate. And I feel like the film asks a lot of questions, you know, maybe more questions are asked than answers given. And
the empire that everyone believed was untouchable is slowly being pulled into the spotlight. Many assumed the fallout around Diddy would end with prison term and a wave of bad press. But the situation is far from over. What was expected to stay contained behind the walls of Fort Dix is now spilling outward. New leaks are reportedly connecting Kris Jenner and Corey Gamble to the same circle that recently collapsed. At the same time, insiders claim 50 Cent is preparing his next move. Alleged email screenshots are circulating online, and rumors about follow-up documentaries are gaining momentum. Inside the Kardashian camp, the tension is becoming impossible to hide. Meanwhile, Diddy's projected release date has shifted to April 25th, 2028. Prosecutors describe him as unremorseful, and reports claim he was caught producing contraband while incarcerated. On top of that, $53,688 in unpaid legal fees has surfaced quietly, while
Now we should say that, remember, Diddy and his team were very upset when they found out that this footage was part of the documentary, and they tried to shut it down, but, you know,
the act of taping it is what
out.
is so
the
awful.
Act of taping it, right.
Without
Diddy would say that I didn't authorize that video going out, and the argument they've made is that he's the one who has the right, that he owns that
footage from controversial celebrity parties has suddenly started resurfacing across the internet. People involved are quickly distancing themselves. Some have unfollowed others online even before any official raids occur. They insist they had no awareness of what was happening. But the timeline raises questions. If these leaks continue to emerge, the real scandal may not revolve around the parties themselves. Instead, the focus could shift toward who control the money and who might speak first if federal investigators close in. The first fracture doesn't appear in a courtroom. It begins with documents that keep changing. Sean Combs receives a 50-month sentence after being convicted in July on transportation-related charges, while being cleared of racketeering and trafficking counts. He is transferred to Federal Correctional Institution, Fort Dix. Then the timeline starts shifting. The Federal Bureau of Prisons posts one projected release date, then quietly updates it. May becomes June. June later changes again, settling on April 25th, 2028. Prosecutors had pushed for a sentence exceeding 11 years, while defense attorneys argue for just 14 months. In October, Combs stands before Arun Subramanian and delivers an apology. He calls his past behavior disgusting, shameful, and sick. He claims he has been sober after 25 years of addiction and insists the man he used to be no longer exists. But only weeks later, new reports begin circulating. Sources claim he was caught attempting to produce contraband inside the prison, a fermented mixture made from soda and fruit. His team rejects the accusation. Prison officials briefly consider transferring him before reversing the decision. The contradiction is difficult to ignore. A redemption narrative written on paper, while disciplinary concerns emerge behind the walls. That tension doesn't remain contained. It spreads outward, touching every circle that once revolved around him. As the tension grows, people start re-examining those circles more closely. Aubrey O'Day appears in a documentary series on Netflix, where she reads from an affidavit describing a studio incident from years earlier that she says she cannot clearly recall. She also references explicit emails dated March 23, 2008, and claims she was removed from her group after refusing certain personal advances. During production, she says agents from United States Department of Homeland Security contacted her, restricting parts of what she could publicly discuss. At one point while rehearsing for a tour, she breaks down emotionally. She describes the experience as carrying a weight of nearly 300 pounds. These details begin altering the story that...
So, maybe the judge is going to give him more than time served.
But we should say that the maximum he could get is 20 years.
And that's what I want to get into for a minute. Because This is some racist you-know-what, this man
that once surrounded certain private celebrity gatherings. What once looked glamorous now carries an uncomfortable shadow. Old footage that previously felt nostalgic begins to take on a different meaning. Once that shift happens, even harmless-looking clips start attracting scrutiny. Video from 2014 resurfaces online. Khloe Kardashian recalls leaving a party early in the morning, telling her sister she boarded a plane at 5:30 a.m. after attending an event where, according to her words, half the guests were not wearing clothes. She casually mentioned several names, including Combs and a 20-year-old Justin Bieber. 2 years later, during a talk show appearance, she described his parties as legendary. The atmosphere in that interview is playful, bright lights, a laughing audience, a lighthearted tone. But today those clips feel very different when replayed. Reports from In Touch Weekly claim the family is now deeply concerned about potential testimony if federal investigations widen. The name of Corey Gamble appears again, not as a distant figure, but as someone reportedly present at multiple high-profile gatherings, including birthdays and industry events alongside figures like Tyga and Kanye West during Combs' 50th birthday celebration in 2019. None of this, on its own, represents criminal conduct, but when placed beside convictions, ongoing investigations, and prison records that keep changing, simple proximity begins to carry a much heavier meaning. From the Kardashian camp, the official message is separation. They maintain that they had no involvement in the so-called freak-off gatherings described in federal filings. According to them, many of the events hosted by Sean Combs were simply glamorous celebrity parties with nothing illegal taking place. But the timeline begins to raise questions. Industry insiders highlight a curious sequence of social media activity. Kris Jenner and Kim Kardashian reportedly unfollow Combs online shortly before agents from the United States Department of Homeland Security carry out coordinated raids on his properties in March 2024. The change happens less than a day beforehand. Publicly, it can be dismissed as coincidence. Privately, people inside the entertainment world wonder how anyone in their circle sensed trouble so quickly. Later, a federal indictment outlines alleged gatherings that stretched over several days and involved travel across state lines. Prosecutors describe a system built around coercion.
I think it was surprising that he actually filmed it.
Yeah, and I want to ask about that because how did you go about getting the footage? And do you know the intent of the videographer, why he or this person took the footage?
She's a journalist, right?
Yeah.
So she's not going to reveal her sources, so you don't have to reveal that.
Pressure and reputation control. Defense lawyers counter that the interactions were consensual and part of a lifestyle common in elite celebrity circles. That legal fight continues inside the courtroom while the surrounding social network works to manage appearances. Financial details soon add another layer to the narrative. Court filings reveal that Combs and his son Christian Combs face a lawsuit from a legal firm claiming unpaid bills totaling $53,688.35 for more than 100 hours of work. The claim relates to representation connected to a separate civil dispute involving allegations of an assault on a yacht chartered shortly before New Year's Eve in 2022. The disagreement is eventually resolved quietly, and the payment issue fades from the docket. Still, the optics linger. A figure once associated with extreme luxury, including report of authorities discovering over 1,000 bottles of lubricant in seized properties, is suddenly linked to relatively modest legal fee disputes. That contrast sparks speculation that financial pressure may be building behind the scenes. People familiar with high-profile legal crises often say that when money stress appears, alliances begin to shift. In that environment, attention turns toward Corey Gamble, who, unlike others in the circle, does not operate a massive personal brand empire. At the same time, 50 Cent intensifies his public commentary. Online, he mocks Christian Combs, reposts uncomfortable stage clips, and even directs jokes toward Jay-Z about past associations with Combs. Jackson is also producing a documentary series that reportedly contains previously unseen video and audio. When questioned about how he obtained footage of Combs filming himself shortly before his arrest, he laughs and refuses to explain the source. That approach, possessing material without revealing its origin, shifts the atmosphere. According to industry chatter, He may already be developing follow-up projects examining others connected to Combs' former social orbit. In those discussions, the name of Kris Jenner has begun appearing more prominently, not merely as a passing reference, but potentially as a central figure in future narratives. People within the entertainment business say Jackson understands leverage well. He doesn't necessarily have to prove every claim. Sometimes it's enough to highlight connections and proximity in a way that makes sponsors uneasy and legal teams suddenly very busy. At this stage, Corey Gamble no longer appears merely as a quiet presence in the background. His position begins